Steelers Nation, stop everything you're doing right now. We've got absolutely massive breaking news coming out of Pittsburgh, and this is franchise-altering stuff. The Steelers just locked down one of their most explosive young defenders for the long haul, and the price tag, it's absolutely wild. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, hit that button right now because we bring you breaking Steelers news the moment it drops, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next for this team. All right, let's dive right into this bombshell. The Pittsburgh Steelers and edge rusher Nick Herbig have just agreed to terms on a 4-year contract extension worth $100 million. You heard that right, $100 million. And when you include the year he still has remaining on his current deal, we're talking about a 5-year commitment worth over $103 million to keep this absolute speed demon in the black and gold. This is the kind of move that tells you everything you need to know about where the Steelers see their defense heading in the next half-decade. Now, before we get into what this means for the future, let's talk about who Nick Herbig actually is and why the Steelers just made him one of the highest-paid edge rushers in football. This is a guy who wasn't even a first-round pick, remember that. Herbig came into the league as a 4th-round selection out of Wisconsin back in 2023. The Steelers saw something special in him during the draft process, something that maybe other teams overlooked. And boy, have they been proven right. From the moment Herbig stepped onto the field in Pittsburgh, you could see the explosiveness. We're talking about a player with legitimate elite-level speed off the edge. His get-off is absolutely insane. When that ball is snapped, Herbig is already 2 steps into his rush before offensive tackles can even react. That kind of burst simply cannot be taught. You either have it or you don't, and Herbig has it in abundance. Let's put some numbers behind the hype here. Last season, playing as essentially the number 3 edge rusher in the rotation behind T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig recorded 7.5 sacks. Now you might be thinking, okay, 7.5 sacks, that's decent, but not earth-shattering. But here's where it gets really interesting. Herbig achieved those 7.5 sacks while playing significantly fewer snaps than most starting edge rushers around the league. He dealt with some injury issues that kept him out of games. He wasn't even on the field for full games when he was healthy because he was splitting time in a rotational role. Want to know how impressive that production really is? Cleveland Browns edge rusher Jared Verse, the guy the Browns just traded Myles Garrett for in that absolutely shocking deal yesterday, recorded the exact same number of sacks, 7.5. But Verse was playing as a full-time starter, getting way more opportunities than Herbig. When you break it down to a per-snap basis, Herbig's production is absolutely off the charts. This is a guy who makes the most of every single opportunity he gets on the field. The Steelers clearly did the math on this. They looked at what Herbig was doing with limited snaps and projected what he could do as a full-time player, and what they saw made them comfortable handing over $25 million per year. That's the annual average of this deal, $25 million per season. That puts Herbig in the conversation with some of the premier pass rushers in the entire National Football League. Now let's talk about the structure of this contract because it matters. According to reports, the deal includes $42 million in guaranteed money. That's serious security for Herbig and shows the Steelers' commitment isn't just talk. They're putting real guaranteed cash behind their belief in this young man. The way these contracts typically work, especially for younger players getting their first big extension, is that the cap hits are structured to be team-friendly in the early years and gradually increase as the player enters their prime. So what does that mean practically? It means that for this upcoming season, Herbig's cap number probably won't be dramatically different from what it would have been on his rookie deal. Maybe a bit higher, but nothing that handcuffs the team financially. The Steelers can still operate with flexibility, make other moves, and keep their championship window open. But in years 2, 3, and 4 of this extension, you're going to see those cap numbers climb, and that's when Herbig will need to be producing as a full-time starter, as a cornerstone piece of this defense. Which brings us to the big question everyone in Steelers Nation is asking right now. What does this mean for the current edge rusher room? Right now, Pittsburgh has arguably the best trio of edge rushers in football with T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, and now Nick Herbig all locked up. But can the Steelers really afford to keep all 3 long-term? T.J. Watt is the franchise player, the face of the defense, a guy who's been in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year multiple times. He's on track to be a Steeler for life, potentially joining that exclusive club of one-helmet players who spend their entire career in Pittsburgh. There's no scenario where the Steelers move on from Watt while he's still performing at an elite level. But Alex Highsmith? His situation just got a whole lot more complicated. Highsmith is entering what will likely be his final year under contract with Pittsburgh. After this season, he'll be looking for his own extension, and coming off another productive year, he's going to command serious money on the open market. We're talking about a player who's been arguably just as productive as Watt when healthy. Last season, when Highsmith was on the field, he was absolutely dominant. He's still in his prime, still playing at an extremely high level. But here's the reality of the business side of football. Highsmith is going to be 29 years old next season. He'll be entering his 30s, which is typically when edge rushers start to see some physical decline. Not always, but it's a risk factor teams have to consider. And with Nick Herbig just 24 years old and locked up long-term at a comparable price point, the Steelers have to be thinking about the future. So what's likely to happen? Well, buckle up because this might be tough for some fans to hear. This upcoming season is probably Alex Highsmith's final year in Pittsburgh. The Steelers will run it back one more time with this incredible three-headed monster at edge rusher, and then next offseason they'll very likely explore trade options for Highsmith rather than try to extend him. They'll want to get value back while he still has it, maybe a second or third round pick from a team that needs an established veteran pass rusher and is willing to pay him. Is that the right move? From a pure football business perspective, absolutely. You keep the young ascending star in Herbig, you hold on to your generational talent in Watt, and you get draft capital for Highsmith while he still has significant value. It's exactly the kind of smart roster management that's allowed the Steelers to stay competitive year after year without going through major rebuilds. But man, it's going to be bittersweet to see Highsmith go if that's how it plays out. This is a guy who's given everything to the black and gold, who's been a warrior in that defense, who's produced at a level that exceeded everyone's expectations when he first took over a starting role. Steelers fans have grown to love his game, his consistency, his toughness. But that's the NFL. It's a business, and sometimes you have to make tough decisions to position your franchise for sustained success. Now let's shift gears and talk about what this means on the field for the upcoming season. The Steelers have a new defensive coordinator in Patrick Graham, who's coming in with fresh ideas and a new scheme. Graham has a reputation around the league as an innovative defensive mind, someone who's not afraid to get creative with his fronts and his blitz packages. And having 3 elite-level edge rushers to work with, that's got to have him salivating. One of the most exciting possibilities is what's being called the NASCAR package. Picture this. 3rd and long. The offense comes out in an empty set, 5 receivers spread across the formation. The Steelers respond by putting T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig all on the field at the same time. 3 speed demons coming off the edge from different angles, stunting, looping, creating chaos for the offensive line. How do you block that? How do you even game plan for that kind of speed and talent rushing the passer simultaneously? Under the previous regime with Terrell Austin as defensive coordinator, the Steelers dabbled with this kind of package but didn't use it nearly as much as they could have. It was almost like they were afraid to get too exotic, too aggressive. They'd bring it out occasionally in obvious passing situations, and it would work beautifully, creating immediate pressure and sacks. But then they'd go back to their base packages and not deploy it again for several drives. Everything we know about Patrick Graham suggests he's going to be far more willing to unleash this kind of aggression. He's going to look at the talent he has at edge rusher and build significant portions of his game plan around maximizing that advantage. 2nd and long, NASCAR package. 3rd and medium, NASCAR package. 2-minute drill? You better believe we're seeing NASCAR package. And think about what that means for opposing quarterbacks. You've already got to account for T.J. Watt, one of the most feared pass rushers in football. Then you've got Highsmith coming from the other side, a guy who's racked up double-digit sacks multiple times. And now you're adding Herbig into the mix, a player whose speed off the edge might actually be better than both of them in terms of pure explosiveness. That's an offensive coordinator's nightmare. The ripple effects go beyond just sacks, too. When you can create that kind of consistent pressure with just your front rushers, it allows your secondary to play more aggressively. Your cornerbacks can sit on routes because they know the ball has to come out quick. Your safeties can jump routes and create turnovers. The entire defense elevates when you can win at the line of scrimmage the way the Steelers should be able to with this group. Let's also talk about Nick Herbig's development trajectory because it's pretty remarkable. Coming out of Wisconsin, Herbig was seen as a high-motor player with good speed, but some questions about whether he had the size and strength to hold up as an every-down player in the NFL. He measured in at about 240 pounds, which is on the lighter side for an edge rusher. Some evaluators worried he'd get washed out in the run game or struggle to disengage from bigger offensive tackles. But what Herbig lacked in size, he made up for with technique and relentless effort. And in Pittsburgh's system, he didn't have to be on the field for every single snap as a rookie. He could come in on obvious passing downs, pin his ears back, and go get the quarterback. That's where his skill set really shined. And as he got more comfortable, as he added strength in an NFL training program, his game expanded. By the end of last season, you were seeing Herbig hold his own in the run game. He was setting the edge better, taking on blockers with more power, showing that he could be more than just a one-dimensional speed rusher. That development, that growth from year 1 to year 2, that's what convinced the Steelers he was worth this kind of investment. And here's the thing about Herbig that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. The guy is a film junkie. He studies relentlessly. He's constantly working with T.J. Watt, picking his brain about hand techniques, about how to read offensive tackles, about the little details that separate good pass rushers from great ones. When you have a young player with elite physical tools who's also committed to mastering the mental side of the game, that's when you have something special. Fan reaction to this deal has been overwhelmingly positive, and rightfully so. Steelers Nation understands that you have to lock up your young stars before they hit free agency. They've seen too many teams lose key players because they waited too long or tried to lowball them. Omar Khan, the Steelers' general manager, is being aggressive and proactive, and fans are loving it. Social media absolutely exploded when this news broke. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of it lighting up with Steelers fans celebrating. You're seeing comments like, "This is what championship teams do," and "Lock up the young core," and "Omar Khan is killing it." The excitement is real because this signals that the Steelers aren't in rebuilding mode. They're in win-now mode, and they're making moves to keep their window open. Some of the national analysts are weighing in too, and the consensus seems to be that the Steelers got good value here. $25 million per year sounds like a lot, and it is. But the edge rusher market has absolutely exploded in recent years. You've got guys making $30, $35 million per year at the top of the market, so getting Herbig locked up at 25 with the potential for him to develop into a perennial Pro Bowler, that could look like a bargain in 2 or 3 years. Compare it to the Alex Highsmith deal from a few years ago. When the Steelers extended Highsmith, some people thought they were overpaying. Now that contract looks like one of the best values in football for an edge rusher. The Steelers are banking on history repeating itself with Herbig. Looking ahead to this season specifically, Herbig should be locked in and ready to roll for training camp. He was at mandatory minicamp when this deal got done, which is perfect timing. No distractions, no contract drama, no holding out or sitting out team activities. He can focus entirely on football, on learning Patrick Graham's system, on building chemistry with his teammates, on preparing for what could be a breakout season. If Herbig stays healthy and gets even just a modest increase in playing time compared to last year, 10 to 12 sacks feels very realistic. If Graham really commits to that NASCAR package and Herbig becomes more of a full-time player, we could be looking at a guy who pushes toward 15 sacks. At that point, we're talking about a legitimate all-pro caliber season, a guy who forces his way into the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. And wouldn't that be something? The Steelers with potentially 2 edge rushers in the DPOY conversation in Watt and Herbig. That hasn't happened since the days of James Harrison and Lamar Woodley wreaking havoc off the edges. That kind of dominant pass rush can carry a defense, can carry an entire team deep into the playoffs. Which brings us to the ultimate question. What does this mean for the Steelers' Super Bowl aspirations? Because let's be honest, that's what this is all about. You don't hand out $100 million contracts to make the playoffs and lose in the wild card round. You do it to build a championship-caliber roster. The Steelers' defense should be elite this season. We're talking top 5 in the league, potentially top 3. You've got the edge rush we've been discussing. You've got T.J. Watt healthy and motivated. You've got Cameron Hayward back and looking rejuvenated. You've got a secondary that's young and talented with Joey Porter Jr. developing into a legitimate number 1 cornerback. The pieces are there. On offense, there are still some question marks, sure. But if Russell Wilson can provide even league-average quarterback play, if the offensive line stays healthy, if Najee Harris and Jalen Warren form a dynamic 1-2 punch in the backfield, This team has the pieces to compete with anyone in the AFC. And in the AFC, it's wide open right now. The Chiefs are still the standard, but they're beatable. The Bills are always dangerous, but haven't gotten over the hump. The Bengals have their own challenges. The Ravens are a rival, but the Steelers match up well with them. There's no clear-cut dominant team, which means a squad like Pittsburgh with an elite defense and solid offense can make a serious run. Locking up Herbig long-term is a statement. It's the front office saying we're not punting on this season or the next few seasons. We're going for it. We believe in this core. We believe in this coaching staff. We believe we can win a championship in this window, and we're making the moves necessary to keep that window open as long as possible. The timing of this extension is also strategically brilliant. By getting it done now, in June, before the season starts, the Steelers avoid what could have been a major distraction later. Imagine if they'd gone into the season with Herbig playing on his rookie deal, balling out, and then all the talk becoming about his contract situation. Sports talk radio would be obsessing over it. Reporters would be asking him about it after every game. It would become a thing. Now, it's not a thing. It's done. Herbig can play freely, knowing he's financially set for life, knowing the organization believes in him. That peace of mind matters more than people realize. Players perform better when they're not worried about their future, when they can just focus on the game. So where do things go from here? Well, the immediate focus shifts to Joey Porter Jr. and whether he'll be the next young Steeler to get extended. Porter is still on his rookie deal but has shown incredible promise at cornerback. If he takes another step forward this season, he'll be looking for his own big payday soon. And given how the Steelers have handled things with Herbig, you'd have to think they're already having conversations about locking up Porter long-term. But that's a story for another day. Right now, this is about celebrating a massive win for the Steelers organization and for Steelers Nation. Nick Herbig is going to be terrorizing quarterbacks in black and gold for the next 5 years. He's going to be a centerpiece of this defense. He's going to help lead this team on what everyone hopes is a deep playoff run. The hype is real, Steelers fans. This team is loading up, the defense is going to be absolutely nasty, and with moves like this, with smart front office management, with elite talent locked up long-term, the future is incredibly bright in Pittsburgh. This is exactly the kind of news we love to bring you, and it's exactly why you need to stay subscribed to this channel for all the latest Steelers updates, analysis, and breaking news. The season is right around the corner, and things are about to get very, very exciting.